Hi everyone. So let's go through Bitcoin on weekly to start with. So this is the fourth week since Bitcoin started moving up since this 40k level. This is where it was a decisive moment where if it could have lost this level would have landed in this region and would be under tremendous pressure from trend point of view. It didn't happen. ETF was the key driver and it helped the price move up. Now, it's not that ETF moved the price up, especially the speed at which it went moved up. I think that's the contributing factor. This was a support, so if it moved up, it's not a surprise, but the way it moved up, the speed, and I would say without any hesitance or correction, that is definitely ETF. I mean, ETF is the reason. Anyway, so 4x, I mean, amazing 4 weeks since October first week, and now this is the fourth week where we see reaction on weekly. Until now, we had seen reaction at low time frame. This is the first time we are seeing the reaction on a weekly scale. That matters as far as checkpoint is concerned, as far as monitoring is concerned, because I used to say that on intraday is super noisy. Sometimes it's good to know um, what it is doing, especially when it is near the resistance. Just to get a quick look at, like when it was here, it was like hitting. It had hit 6 times we saw, which is not visible at a higher time frame. So sometimes low time frame is required to know what is really happening within, and then we would have better understanding on potential direction. So it is just to have a quick zoom in kind of a look and then come out of it. That's the whole idea. So low time frame is not for tracking the trend, it is just to see what is happening when it is at a key level, right? So that's the only purpose. Anyway, so far low time frame had resistance and some kind of a dip, and which lasted only for a few hours, and Bitcoin just ignored everything and kept moving up, right? So this journey over 55% was without any break, and this is the first time we are seeing this, which I highlighted 3 days ago by raising watch out alert. And this time the alert is different because it is at a weekly scale. Other alerts were at maybe either daily or intraday, but mainly daily. But this is the first time we are having alert on weekly scale. Now that watch out alert is not a risk alert, as I clarified. We have 3 levels: support 1, from where it bounced; support 2; support 3. In my opinion, not just opinion, from TA point of view, touching S1 is not a big deal at all, which it did, and trying to bounce. Coming down to support 2 is also not a big deal, which is totally fine, 53k. Of course, in that case, also would lose significant value, and it's not good for alts. So from that point of view, it's from percentage loss point of view, there are two thought process. One is like those who have new money, what to do, and those who are holding the coin, what to do, right? So in my opinion, in that case, if anyone is holding, so first statement I made is about anyone who is holding, but anyone who has fresh money, it's not financial advice, but logically speaking, it doesn't make sense to do something here when it is under some kind of correction, right? And when we talk about correction, one is correction as part of the usual trend. I mean, when it goes up, it retraces. So that's usual correction. and what we measure is how deep it goes. So from that point of view, touching S1 is not big deal, touching S2 is not a big deal. If it touches S3, then it's a big deal, because then we are talking about risk for this potential recovery. But the point is, this wave is not just this wave. Then you have to consider the whole entire wave from here on. So I would say this S3, even S3 won't put any risk as far as the trend is concerned, but definitely that's something we should be uh, concerning, because that's a 20% drop. But again, that's not for anyone who is holding, in my opinion. It is just that new money should not be entered if I am a trader when it is under correction. It doesn't make sense. So the good idea is, so if it has hit S1, the good idea is to wait for some higher level, maybe 62, 64 level, and then it makes sense, in my opinion. If it comes down to S2 again, when it goes up, and then in that case breaking above S1 makes sense. If it comes down to S3, then when it breaks above S2, then it makes sense. I'm talking about new money. Okay. So I hope that is clear, because not everybody is in the same situation. If somebody has just joined and say, oh, because I was not part of the trade and I want to enter, I would say this is the required height, which is like 64K. Let it reach there, and that's where you put more money. Because why to jeopardize new money when there's a lot? Because if it goes up, it has to go a lot. So in my point of view, there's no need to FOMO. Absolutely not required to FOMO. One can start small always, but when it is under correction or retracement, let it settle down, I would say. So it's just about waiting game in that case. So it's not that it's going to skyrocket and you're going to miss. So it's just matter if it at 61K, let it go up to 64K, right? And as I said, those who are holding, I don't think this is near all-time high. So nobody should be thinking about crash and all, right? So seeing is believing. In my opinion, the severity has to be, or impact has to be determined based on what all levels are being broken down, right? So if you consider this is first level, absolutely no issue. Second, again not an issue. Third, something is not good, you know. And then of course, if this 39500 where it rested here, I think this is a key. If this is broken below, then of course this is a serious matter. So our approach is very simple. I mentioned the same thing here. Then when it is here, if someone has to reduce a little, may reduce, but not necessarily all out, right? Anyone who takes extreme step by, all in and all out, suffer the most. Those who are plan as per the support would win this race, where no matter how the situation is. See, nobody knows whether this is a double top or not. At this moment, this could be a double top, but we cannot say it's a double top unless it breaks below certain level. Saying a double top is premature, and saying this is going to fly is also, probability wise it's higher, because you can say that it's going to fly because it is sitting on the top. So there is no need to think that it is going to go down. So this is more bullish at this moment, because it is near the all-time high. When it is here, we cannot talk about 100K. Now we can talk about 100K and all those higher level, right? But at the same time, what I'm asking is, we have to be open-minded, not like people who are biased, with some kind of mindset that even if it drops below S1, would keep thinking that, you know, let me buy more, or nothing has happened. I would say, okay, it's nothing to worry. But if it breaks below S1, of course you have to watch out. There's no need to panic, of course not. But if it keeps dropping, you cannot just keep eyes closed and think about, no, I'm thinking about 100k and 100k and 100k. So my only, what I would suggest is that based on the level, one has to change their mindset, right? That's about openness, right? Somebody talking about 20k over here, I would say not a bad idea. Somebody says about 20k over here, I would say it's a bad idea, right? Something like this. But if it comes down to again this level, you can all again talk about 20k. Why not? So I think we don't have to take strong side, because anyone who take very strong side suffer the most. That's what I've seen. So it's not about changing your mindset. It's not like politician who believes in certain policy and has to be consistent for 4 years to say, hey, I said this 4 years ago and I'm saying the same. See how consistent I am. That's for politician. Here, if it is about trade, it's about the situation, because things are not in our hand. And in my opinion, we have to just understand what is the direction of the wind. I don't think we should go against the wind. As simple as that. If we are sailing, right, we should try to assess the wind, not on a daily scale, but on a weekly scale, as I'm showing here. So that's my take, and it's a very simple approach. And how it helps, because nothing changes from black and white. There's always transition through the gray shades. Remember, from black, which is very negative, or white, which is very positive. For an example, it doesn't swing from to black and white overnight. It always transition. The smart trader or investor would see the transition, would recognize the transition, right? And so when you are right now at sitting at this is more towards upper end, right? So of course we are bullish, but we are not blindsided by any mean if it starts dropping, right? So at this moment, no need to think about bearish. But once it starts moving down, if it's then just be open about it. Okay. So I would say anyone with this kind of mindset will always win compared to anyone who has very fixed mindset about bull or bear, right? So I personally don't believe in bullish and bearish kind of a debate, because because this kind of a move change everything in 20 days. If this could have gone down, that would have also changed everything, right? So things are so dynamic that having a hard stand is, you may say that, "Oh, hey, I bought a lot at the bottom," but if would have gone down, the same person would be saying, "Oh, I bought at the top," and something like that. You would so winners usually boast, but they go silent when they are wrong. I would say you we don't have to do any of this. We have to be practical about what is happening, right? As I explained. So that's my take. Very simple approach, and it's a practical approach, and in that we are always relevant. And my message is, we have to be relevant. We need to be realist rather than taking any side. So in summary, it is near all-time high. There's not an issue, but as soon as it goes down, we just have to be taking care of it, or think about it, what should we do, especially when it comes to new money. I think it is okay to wait, right? It's otherwise trend is up. So the trend is up on weekly, because this particular bounce, this is recovery wave, has recovered fully, right? It has recovered fully. Now this is all-time high, so you're going to expect some kind of resistance. The all-time high is a resistance. Remember, all-time high, the highest level of resistance is always, I mean, not now, but when it was here, this is the highest level of resistance, because it took a lot of time and a lot of attempts, but it eventually failed and then retraced, right, for that this moment. But now it retried and now written back. So the resistance during this time, the resistance remains the same, but it's not strong as it used to be over here in this time frame. Now here the resistance is the same if you draw a horizontal line or a band, because see, this is, there are different rejection point. So you have to draw a band of horizontal, which you can very easily imagine. Maybe I'll draw a simple simple one touching the higher end, and so this is a band. So you are going to see some resistance here, which is but obvious, but the point is it has recovered so much. So now maybe it'll spend some time here or retrace a bit and then go up, right? So that's how I see. Yeah, anyway, so now if we talk about higher side, right, we talk about where it stands, we talk about this support level. Now higher end 674K is the next level. Another level I see higher than 100K, which I'll share, but it could be around 120K, right? I'll give you more accurate number, but I don't see 100K is the resistance. I don't know. I mean, maybe people are talking because it's just a round figure. Like people were talking about 50K, but if you look at the main rejection was at 42K and a 64K. There is no 50K. Yeah. Here there is 53K. I'm not trying to be, very accurate about numbers, but the point is, these 50K 100K are just round numbers. People like those numbers, right? If you want to transact, you prefer in round number, right? That's how usually, that's the mindset. So people talk about 100K is more symbolic. It just mean to say that it's higher, symbolic, but 100K is not a resistance. The resistance is 74K and then higher than 100K. Okay, but who knows, if 100K people, there might be some short-term reaction in my opinion, because everybody is looking for 100K, so there might be some reaction or profit booking. You never know, but technically 100K is not a resistance. Okay, so there's a lot. So once it breaks above, once we get a clean breakout touches R17, I'll give another higher level, right? And I believe in step by step approach always. I don't talk about um 1 million, half a million, though it can reach. It all depends on how macroeconomic works, right? There are many factors. At this moment, all the factors are positive. There is nothing negative. So we can always think about higher end, but still I would not think about higher numbers because things could change, right? But I'll as it goes up, I'll keep providing higher numbers. And in my opinion, if I have to stretch, it's again, people talk about 200K, and it may not stop at 200K. It could go up to 300K as well, and half a million as well. So as far as potential is concerned, this wave hasn't ended. Let me zoom out. This wave hasn't ended. This wave started from here. This is a detour, as I used to say, because of COVID crisis. Similarly, this is not something anyone would have seen. This nobody's seen this coming, right? Because this is natural calamity, natural disaster where we had challenges. So we had this detour, sideway, I mean distraction, so to speak, and then this is waste of time. If you look at the whole entire segment, you have to imagine this was the low. So this was the first wave, then the counter trend, and this was the resume. This is, this should have been the main trend. I mean, second leg. What you saw here, what you saw here, what could have happened here, right? If you move this wave on the left hand side, ignoring this would have happened if there was no COVID situation. So what I'm trying to say here is, we don't know what kind of challenges we might face in future. That's why I can talk about 200k, 300k, half a million. That's not the problem. But the point is that won't be practical, right? So that's why I stick to more realistic scenario and more realistic level, because to me accuracy matters rather than giving big numbers. And the same is true. I don't talk about when it was here. I don't talk about crashing, let's say 10k, 15k. You can say up to it could go up to this level, that level, but there's no probability. It doesn't happen overnight. So similarly, on the upside, it has great potential, 200k, 250k, 300k kind of potential, but will be there, right? Step by step, right? So this wave is well and good. So this was the first leg. Ignoring this was a counter trend. This is a second leg. This is another counter trend, something similar to this one, little smaller, little shorter, but sharp, right? This was longer, around 6 months, and this is for few months. And then what you see is the recovery, right? Recovery. So this is like a recovery. So this is like you're sitting somewhere here. And if you want to compare this top, you're somewhere here. And here, if you look at it, it reacted. It didn't go. So if you time travel, right? And let me put this purposefully, I'll hide this thing, right? I'll hide this thing by making it black, just for better visualization, because this is what I'm talking about. So this is your bottom from this previous bull cycle. This is your bottom, first leg, and then counter trend, because there is always counter trend when it goes up so high, right? And then it lasted for 6 months, and then this was a bounce where this was a detour, as I said. And now if you consider this, you can imagine now being at this level is like this high top, right? And then there is some reaction. So this reaction is not a concern, it depends on how deep it goes. So imagine this would have gone below this low, then scenario would have been totally different. But then you have to think about, people were so much concerned when it was here all the times. In fact, during the whole entire time, there were so many bearish calls and sentiments, but not on opportunity channel, because we focus on trend. If you focus on trend, that's where you make the money the most. If so, identifying the trend is the key here. Knowing when the trend might break is the key here. So this reaction was not small reaction. Many people actually started thinking about bearish, because this was 25% drop, and that, to me, it is just a reaction at the top, from this top point of view, right? As part of this recovery. So this whole entire wave, from starting from here all the way, is a part of recovery. You can compare this with 29k and this with 65k, recent 65 60k level. So I'm not saying we are going to see this, but even if we see, my point is, that's usual. That's not a concern as far as trend is concerned. But sitting here, you cannot know whether it's going to bounce from here. So that's why those levels are so important, that you have to think that whether S1 is broken below, S2 is broken, because here we know the history that it bounced, but it is possible. I mean, it might not have bounced. In that case, if it would have broken below, then probably this would be the end of this trend, and could have probably seen a lower level and so on. So it's right now it's easy, but point is, at that point in time, what we would be doing is tracking the trend here, right? And I'm bringing up this for the same reason, because it's no different. Time is different, price is different, but it's not different. Situation is not different, right? So if you want to compare, we are here. So that's not a concern at all. Even if it comes down to this, it's not a concern at all. So that's my point. But during this time, it's pain. It's pain. It's not easy, right? as I said. So I hope this is just comparison to show you, because it's sometimes it's easier to compare when you see the history and then think about the present from that regard. Okay, so coming back to the main point, this is the first leg. This is counter trend. You got to ignore this, and then this is a second leg, huge one, and this is a counter trend as part of this one, and now this is recovery. This recovery trend you can compare with this piece of wave, and then if it breaks above, then you can talk about third leg. So right now we got two legs. Okay, first, then a counter trend of that, and then second and a counter trend of that, and now this is recovery. That's where we stand now. This is a pivotal moment, of course, why not? And then if it's about to break about, then we are talking about third leg. At this moment, height wise, we cannot say how high it could go. It could go up to 500,000, it could go to 1 million, right? But we will come to know, like when we were here, we raised an alert, right? When we were here, we raised an alert. Those who are on opportunity channel knows all these key levels. So point is, we would always know at least that these are the key levels and what levels to be watched, right? And I'm sure we'll be able to pick the next stop as well as we pick this one, right? As part of that journey, there are always going to be challenging time, but my message is focus on the trend, not short-term moves, but at the same time keep an eye on the key levels. And if you have to change your mindset, you change your mindset when the situation demands. Okay, so I would draw a trend line, which I haven't drawn here, but I would draw a trend line like this trend line would be something similar to trend line which I would draw here. um, it's at a different angle, so it's going to be a little different. And this is more steep, like this is compared to this angle. So if I would draw the same, so even if it lands, so coincide so coincidentally, this s3 or s2 is on this line approximately, like this one. So even if it lands, that's not an issue as far as trend is concerned. As far as loss of value is concerned, of course, so that is given. But then you cannot play two-sided. If you just focus on percentage gain, you cannot just think from trend point of view. If you think from trend point of view, you have to assume that trend is intact until s3, and even little more, but s3 I would say the boundary, right? That's why. But then you should have that tolerance, and if it goes down, you cannot talk that, oh, I should have sold at top and all. You cannot play at both the end. If you are a person who believe in trend, cannot regret that I should have reduced something here, because it's like not accepting the truth. And my approach is very different. I would say, if it breaks s1, reduce some. It breaks s2, reduce some. It breaks s3, reduce some. So when it comes to s3, it's not that you are caught by surprise, and when it rises, you can always get in. That always my approach. So I'm trying to bring a balance in a way that you not totally out of the trend or trade, but at the same time you reduce your risk. That's my style. I'm not saying that's the best style and you must follow, but I would do that as a trader, because I don't believe in extremes. Anyway, so I hope this gives you perspective, considering I think we talked about the waves, we talked about the key levels, we talked about the second leg and the counter trend, the recovery, and then we are expecting a third leg on the upside, which could go higher. Right. With that note, I believe I covered everything which is essential as far as risk is concerned, opportunities are concerned, the present level is concerned, how one may manage the risk. Of course, it's totally up to you. I'm offering different options. right? Not as financial advice, but from my lesson learned and experience, I would say. Yeah, so that's all about Bitcoin. I can hide the drawing, and probably I can have a quick look at monthly just to just before we conclude, right? So monthly is super strong, right? October is super strong. So this reaction is obvious. As I said, something like this here. All right, we'll see. We need to give some more time. So that's why next week, and I think couple of weeks will also are going to be very important if it stays here and treat this as a launch pad and shoot up. That's what we would like to see, right? And if there is any challenge, we'll talk about it. We don't have to talk about it now because there's nothing on monthly is strong. Okay, with that note, I end the Bitcoin session and open take your questions.